Parts of Devon, West Wales, plenty of blue skies first thing, with this sheet of low cloud elsewhere across England and Wales, hugging the hills across northern England. Northern Ireland, barely a cloud in sight, nevertheless, and for western Scotland as well, clear blue skies. But for Aberdeenshire, Caithness, Sutherland, as well as for the south and southeast of Scotland, fair amount of low cloud, I think. And it's going to take a few hours for that low cloud to properly burn back towards the coast. Patches of it could linger through northern England, the Midlands, throughout much of the early part of the afternoon. Eventually, it will be restricted around the east coast, where the breeze will make it feel cool once again, 13, 14 Celsius. Where we've got the sunshine further west, 21, 22 degrees, so feeling very pleasant. And note the high UV levels at the moment, so if you're outdoors for any length of time this weekend, you will want to take some precautions. Now, into Sunday, a similar theme, low cloud burning back to the east coast. Monday and Tuesday, the chance of a few showers, otherwise the sunshine continues.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M8 eastbound at Harthill, a collision has restricted lanes. The M4 eastbound between junctions 29 and 26 is congested. On the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 26 and 25, a collision has closed one lane. Expect slow movement on the M50 northbound between junctions 3 and 2. M4 westbound at junction 22 in South Gloucestershire has lane closures. And on the trains, Great Western Railway reports a disruption between Plymouth and Penzance, while Northern services face disruption between Manchester Airport and Wilmslow. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there and happy Friday to you. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is Dewbs Co. Coming up tonight, there's been a flurry of social media activity today from the Labour Party insisting, and I quote, their plan is working. Is it? And the independent MP Rupert Leahy's dropped a few hints that he could set up a new political party. Is that what we need? Another option on the right or not? And get this, ladies and gents, civil servants have found their latest reason to threaten strikes, this time because they don't like the Supreme Court ruling about trans. I've got a simple bit of advice for everybody. If you don't like the law and you don't want to follow it, sack them. That's what I say. What about you? Well, we've got all of that and a lot more keeping me company on the panel tonight. I've got the GB News presenter, Matt Goodwin, and the political commentator, Fahima Mohammed. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Very good evening to you. The top story tonight at 6. Sir Keir Starmer is poised to U-turn on Labour's winter fuel payment cuts after growing pressure from his own MPs and angry voters. According to reports tonight in the newspaper, talks in Number 10 have ramped up, with changes to the income threshold set to be announced as soon as June. The policy, claimed to save £1.4 billion, has been branded kryptonite on the doorstep and blamed for Labour's recent by-election defeat. More than 100 Labour MPs have now warned they could rebel in a Commons vote next month. Sir Keir Starmer insists the cut was needed to stabilise the economy, but ministers fear the political cost may now outweigh the benefit. 2 firefighters and a member of the public have died in a huge blaze at Bicester Motion, a business park and former RAF base in Oxfordshire. The fire broke out on Thursday night, with locals reporting loud bangs and plumes of smoke. One victim was described as a close friend of the site, which houses dozens of motoring and aviation firms. 2 other firefighters are in hospital with serious injuries. The county's fire chief praised the unwavering bravery of crews, and police say at this stage it's not a criminal investigation, but their major crime team is leading the probe. MPs have voted to protect staff from being forced to take part in assisted dying under a proposed new law for England and Wales. The bill, put forward by Labour's Kim Leadbeater, would allow terminally ill adults with 6 months to live to seek help to end their lives. It's passed at the first stage last year and has since faced months of emotional debate and major changes. One of the amendments would stop doctors from raising the option of assisted dying with patients first. Further votes are set for June. Talks between Sir Keir Starmer and Albania's Prime Minister have continued today as both sides discussed plans to tackle organised crime and illegal migration. The UK is exploring new return hubs abroad for migrants facing deportation, but Albania won't be one of them. Sir Keir Starmer says he's working to reset relations with Europe as wider discussions with EU leaders also continue.
Well, in the last 2 weeks you've seen the UK do a trade deal with India, really important for our country and our national interest. Trade deal with the US, again important for our country and national interest. I'm positive going into Monday, and I think that this is an important moment for our country that will be measured in the benefits to working people and their living standards. But we're positive as we go into the summit on Monday.
Ukraine and Russia have agreed to swap 1,000 prisoners of war each after their first direct talks in 3 years. The date is set but remains secret, with both sides also discussing the prospect of a ceasefire. However, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling for a strong reaction if no peace deal is reached. Turkey helped to facilitate the talks, with US officials also attending. Donald Trump now says he wants to meet Putin as soon as he can, as pressure is building for an end to the war. And the UK is turning up the heat this weekend, set to be warmer than Ibiza, with temperatures hitting 25 degrees in parts of the west. It follows one of the driest springs in over a century, with rainfall nearly 20 millimetres below the previous record low. Farmers say they're already having to irrigate fields weeks earlier than usual, despite full reservoirs from a wet winter. And with more dry days ahead, the Environment Agency is now warning of a risk of drought this summer. Warmer than Ibiza. Perfect. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in an hour. Now, though, it's over to Michelle.
Thank you very much for that. Happy Friday to each and every one of you. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs Co with you till 7 o'clock tonight. So alongside me, I've got the pollster and academic, and of course, the presenter of State of the Nation. You're a busy man. What can I say?
Very
Matt
busy.
Goodwin.
It's on tonight.
Oh, there you go, nice little plug, get it straight in there. I like it. Alongside him, I've got a new face to the panel. We like those, political commentator Fahima Mahmood. Yeah, did I say that right? Mohammed.
Sorry.
Oh, I got that wrong. Well, I
That's
apologise.
fine.
Welcome. It's very nice to have you, and it's very nice to have each and every single one of you at home as well. How are you tonight? I've just got wind of the fact that it's sunny outside. I'm very jealous. And if you do want to head out, guess what? You can take me with you because, of course, we are available on your radio as well. What a treat for your earlobes. But look, you can join the conversation all the usual ways. You can email me. We're old-fashioned like that here. You can gbviews@gbnews.com is how you get me there. You can go to the website gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. Now, we've got a lot to get stuck into. Today, there's been quite a lot of activity, I have to say, on social media. A lot of it is the Labour Party, I would say, essentially praising themselves and telling us all that their plan is working. This particular one caught my eye. Let's watch.
You asked us what we're doing to tackle illegal migration. This is our answer. Since July, we've already returned over 24,000 people with no right to be here, the highest returns rate in 8 years. We're dismantling the people smuggling gangs who organise small boat crossings at their source. We're cracking down on illegal working with tougher laws, requiring all companies to carry out proper eligibility to work checks or face fines and prison time. But we know there's more to do. We will go further and faster to take back control of our borders. This is our plan for change in action.
Well, firstly, I don't mean to be rude, but whoever that was doing that voiceover, he sounded bored out of his brain. I mean, if that was me trying to sell to everybody what I'm achieving, I would like to think I'd sound a little bit more upbeat than that poor fellow. He sounded like he'd just been grabbed off the street, handed a piece of paper and told, read this and do it right now. It was very odd. Anyway, Matt Goodwin, the messaging behind there, despite the fella's tone, do you agree with it? Is their plan working?
No, of course it's not working. Keir Starmer and Labour's plan is riddled with problems, riddled with holes. The small boat numbers as a start are up nearly 50% on the same time last year. They're up nearly 80% on the same time in 2023. We don't have a viable plan. We don't have a deterrent. We're giving too much welfare to people who are breaking our laws. But then we've got Keir Starmer and Labour communications directors in number 10 running around trying to basically mislead the British public. They're basically gaslighting the country, claiming they're getting control of this crisis when they are very visibly not doing so. And to be honest, Michelle, I haven't said this before, I'm actually worried about what Keir Starmer and the Labour government are doing to trust in the system and trust in democracy, because they're claiming they're dealing with this issue, but the numbers are going through the roof, and it's a British taxpayer who is having to pay the associated costs. £15 billion over the next 10 years on hotel and accommodation costs. And Keir Starmer's not being truthful with them about this.
Did you have any truth, did you have any trust, should I say, in democracy and politicians at the start of this to erode? I don't know, get in touch and tell me your thoughts. Fahima, your thoughts?
Well, I think, the problem here is Labour used to be the party of the people. Now it seems to be the party of the professionals, and it's copying reform. Instead of leading, it's chasing, and it's mimicking things that people did not vote for them in the first place. And I think that is the real problem. And also, it's not just about the fact that they're not actually clamping down on immigration. There are so many other issues that needs to be raised, which the Labour Party stands for, like welfare, education, the NHS. We've got so much shortage of skilled people to fill in even the NHS with over 100,000 vacancies. And, expenses are still high. They're targeting very vulnerable people at the moment. And it's not the way to go, across by just basically coming off the back of the by-elections of what they think that the people want, which is just reform.
Fahima, two things happened this week. Firstly, we learned immigration is the #1 issue in this country.
Only because that's the only thing being told and spoken about.
Okay. So this is what's interesting, Michelle. This is the left narrative. We're all
no, it's not. I'm not the left. Why do you call me the left?
Can I finish? We're all talking about immigration, and that's the reason.
Well, we're not all talking about immigration.
Can I finish? We're all talking about immigration. That's why immigration is the #1 issue, as opposed to it's nothing to do with the record numbers of people who are actually coming into our country. And the second thing we've learned this week is 85% of Brits want net migration reduced below 100,000, and nearly half the country want zero migration. And you're acting as So Keir Starmer is kind of speaking up for this mad, extreme fringe. Most people in this country want less immigration. It's not that hard.
Well,
to
I'm
figure
sorry.
out.
Now, I really do feel that you are basically trying to talk for everyone when it's not the case. Everywhere else, they do not just only mention immigration. It is much more. It's the only rhetoric that I hear from people like yourself, and I'm not calling you far right or right or anything, so don't call me that, because there's certain things that I even agree with when it comes to the other side. It's not about that. We have to do so much more to get this country back in order than just immigration, and that's not going to erase any of the economics and the problems that are there.
So
it is really not that. It's just what you want to raise and everyone else.
And as I say, it's the #1 issue in the country. That's the British people.
Because that's the telescope right now that's been put on.
That's the British people who are saying we don't want to have to deal with these record numbers of people, many of whom are breaking our laws. And it's the British people who are watching this show who are being asked to pay £15 billion over the next 10 years, $5 million a day for hotels and accommodation. You talk about economics. How about we take that $15 billion by fixing the illegal migration crisis? And how about we have 10 new hospitals for the British people? Why don't we do that?
Well, why can't we also fix the processes in the first place? It's been so long where people are waiting for their immigration status. They are not actually being processed properly. We don't have the staff. We do not have all of that. But all everyone is talking about, like as if it's just the migrants' fault themselves. There's the smugglers. There's the fact there's also foreign policy that plays a part. It is not just people that are coming there and all of them are criminals as you think, because they're not arrested when they arrive. They are there because they seek refuge, because some of them, you know, are probably not here just for the right reasons, but majority of them are, and you cannot just put all of them in one sort of stroke,
like the
as what you
Iranian
say.
terrorists last week, who we discovered
Again, you're going to pick on one thing and say it's about everyone. It's so easy for you to do that and brush everyone under the same carpet when it's not like that. You cannot do that, and it's not fair to do and to say that if, you know, minorities are actually causing those things, it applies to everyone.
I hear you endlessly talk about fairness. My question is very simple. What about what is fair for the British people who are supporting this entire system? They are the ones who are having to pay the cost of this. And you're saying we have 160,000 people who have entered this country illegally. Their first act on entering this country is to break the law. Those people should be taken outside of the UK. They should be processed offshore, like the Rwanda plan would have done. It wasn't perfect. It needed changes. We should have processed them offshore, away from the British people, because now we have this absurd situation where this is not fair. The state is now taking British taxpayers' money, giving it to private companies like Serco, who are outbidding the British people in their own housing market to give more favourable contracts to illegal migrants and asylum seekers. You talk about fairness. My question is, how is that fair?
They are not doing that for everyone. At the end of the day, you have to understand they are all not criminals. They are all not here living in hotels. They all don't have the benefits like you think. A lot of them are wanting to work. They're just not given the process to do that. They are also needing to...
Do you think they should be allowed to work?
Well, if they are going through a process and they are actually filling the sort of criteria that meant to be, because at the end of the day, every country has taken a certain amount. I do not think that it should be overly exaggerated with regards to everyone being criminal, everyone here being economic migrants, and they are just here to cause havoc. There are so many of them that are actually also fleeing because of the foreign policies that we have to do.
Safe and legal routes?
Because there are none.
Of course there are.
There are none. There are none, and they're not really doing that.
I don't know, 300,000 refugees over the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, we have to understand that they are doing what they feel that they can. They don't have the means all of the time to come through certain...
Everybody should just do what they want.
No, it's not. There should be tougher sort of legal processes here, done quicker, and they also need to be much more tougher laws with regards to making sure that they are not all seen like how you say, which they're not. Otherwise, they will be charged and in prison when they land. They're not charged and in prison because they're not seen as criminals. They are seen as someone who needs refuge. So we need to be able to process that. I don't believe that the boat is the best way to come. Obviously, it's causing so much damage when it comes to people losing their lives. It's not obviously the legal route. But at the same time, if you are fleeing and you are needing help and you wanting it, just because we're sitting here and we don't have those, those kind of experiences, or we don't know of people that have, it's so easy to just criminalize them and make them all when they are actually also very vulnerable.
Your starting point is always, what about the rights and the sense of fairness for people who are coming from outside of the country who are breaking our law? I'm sorry,
they're not all breaking the law. They're not all breaking the law.
You live in some fantasy land.
No, you live in a very different land.
The British culture is based on the notion of fair play, which is if people come into the country...
Which is humanitarian as well, refuge. And it's also Christian for you to also not be so hostile like you and talk like you and put everyone in that sort of boat like they are.
300,000 refugees in recent years, and you're sat there saying that we are not humanitarian. What planet are you living on?
I'm saying what you're saying now is not humanitarian.
What, that we should control our own borders? That's not right.
I'm saying that we should obviously control our own borders.
Right.
No one's saying that we shouldn't.
You are.
But the way you're saying it, you're taking me out of context. I'm saying the way you're saying is that when they're coming in, or if they're coming in, they're all criminals. They're all wrong. They're all going to do something. They're all taking our money. They're all there because they just want economic sort of gain. It's not like that for everyone. And even if they want to, they want a better life because their houses, their countries are being bombed. Their countries are being bombed.
Then countries safe and legal routes. Don't break the law.
So easy for you to say when your family is not being, bombed and they're not actually being
asked to pay for the crisis. I'm a taxpayer.
So
I work hard. Everyone watching this show.
So am I.
Right. So why should those people be asked to spend billions of pounds every year on a crisis that their leaders refuse to fix?
Well, then it's not their fault. It is the politicians' fault to get it right and to get those processes right.
So let's fix the crisis.
Yes, the crisis, but don't just blame the sort of migrants that are coming. It is to do with the politicians and people like yourself who are in these kind of, big sort of parties that are putting the blame on the wrong people and the wrong side. It should be fixing policies and making decisions that is also within rights of the humanitarian sort of and international law and looking after the British values. Not to say that, some of them are going to be criminal, but again, you put everyone under.
I'm not going to take lectures on what are British values.
I'm not giving you a lecture. I'm just giving you my point of view, like how you're giving me.
Well, there you go. Two very different points of view. You at home will have a very strong opinion as well. As I've just said at the start, you're always welcome to join this conversation. I'll bring you in after the break. I also want to ask you, there's so much to discuss. Do we need a new party on the right? Rupert Lowe dropping hints about that. I've got Lucy Connolly. Still no outcome of that appeal. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you in 2.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
What this allows teachers to do is to divide the children into groups so they can be taught as in groups round a table, 3 or 4 tables in the classroom. Now, much more effective than that is to have a teacher at the front of the class and the children facing the teacher. It's called whole class teaching. It's what they do in the Asia Pacific. Now, if we don't have so many support staff, teaching assistants, schools would be forced to have more old-fashioned teacher at the front style teaching. So actually that will raise standards because we know we're already about 3 years behind the Asia Pacific countries. So going back to more traditional teacher-led teaching, having fewer classroom assistants will actually raise standards. But don't get me wrong on this, Andrew. Of course, on an individual basis, some children need support staff. So I'm not trying to rubbish support staff. There were some great support staff, but we've got too many. Therefore, we need to work within the existing budget. And to be fair to the government, and we're not party political, and we're not either right or left. We would say, as far as the government is concerned, they've said that if there is a bigger pay rise than the 2.8% or 2.6%, which is inflation, it'll have to be paid from within the current budget. So the government needs to stick to that. They can pay it within the current budget, but you tell that to the teacher unions, and of course they won't want to believe that. They will say, no, we need more money. But if you go to the Institute for Fiscal Studies, they will tell you that since 1953, going back to the 50s, we've increased expenditure on education by 900% in real terms. Staggering, I know. And we haven't improved standards. So the success of the teaching profession is not about money. It's about the quality of the teachers. So we should pay good teachers more. I wouldn't pay mediocre teachers more. I would pay good teachers more. So they have got a case, but we could do it within the existing budget.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. We're with you until 7 o'clock. Alongside me, I've got Matt Goodwin and Fahima Mohammed. We've got lots more to discuss. We touched on this yesterday because we were expecting an outcome, didn't we? Lucy Connolly, we all know this story by now. She's the mother. She's the wife of a Tory councillor. She was sentenced to a 31-month prison stay, of course, for something that she wrote on tweet, something that nobody would condone, nobody would endorse. She herself has said, of course, that it was a very wrong thing to say and tweet. So there's no outcome yet. They're reflecting on what they want to do about it. Your thoughts, Matt Goodwin?
Well, firstly, I don't think Lucy Connolly should be in prison. I think it's outrageous that, you know, a mother, the wife of a sick husband, has been jailed for nearly 3 years because of what she shared on X for 4 hours before deleting it. And yet we've had Labour MPs not go to prison for assaulting their own voters. We've had prominent BBC presenters not be put in prison for downloading and being involved with indecent images of children. And it's that notion of two-tier. I mean, yesterday I was struck. I woke up in the morning to read about sex offenders being released from UK prisons early because we haven't got enough space. And then I went to bed hearing about Lucy Connolly being held in prison, already having not been allowed early release to see her 12-year-old daughter. And like many people out there watching this show, I just thought, what on earth is happening to this country? Because it is about that steady erosion of free speech, free expression, the ability to say what we think on social media. I don't think anybody, to be frank, in this country should be in prison for what they say on social media. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think it's part of this Orwellian clamp down on free speech in this country. Lucy Connolly should be released from prison and we should return to common sense in this country.
I've got to point out, she did, of course, plead guilty to distributing material with intent of stirring up racial
Hang on, sorry,
hatred.
this is an important point, and I'll say it because very few other people will. A lot of people after Southport pleaded guilty because they came under enormous pressure from the state to plead guilty. And I just want to throw that out there.
Well, regular viewers, you'll remember, actually, I spoke to one guy around that time, do you remember? And he said that he felt that he was pressured to plead guilty, but he didn't, actually. He pleaded not guilty and he didn't get sent to prison. You can look that interview up on YouTube.
Yeah,
anyway, for him, your thoughts.
Absolutely. And it's so typical that people are going to cite free speech and she's a mother and this, that and the other when she said set fire and an actual hotel was set on fire, which could have caused lots more damage than it was. So, you say about free speech, but at the same time, we do know that it can incite real violence, which is what happened. It just seems to show. You talk about two-tier. Everyone's going on about Gary Lineker even at the moment speaking, just because it's on a different side. So everyone's like, oh, don't say, this, that and the other. Then there's no free speech there. But just because on this side, it was against immigrants, migrants, minority, then of course it's not a problem, it's free speech. I think it's such a double standard and hypocrisy.
Can I ask you just a quick...
It did actually cause actual violence. It contributed to it.
Okay,
Hang on, can I
it really
did.
Sorry, first of all, you have absolutely no evidence that Lucy Connolly's tweet
well,
caused
that's
anything.
why she was actually
criminalised
in the first place.
Why she was criminalised in the first place.
She was arrested because it was something that they are investigating.
Can I ask you a very straight question? Because I just want you to be honest with me for a second. Lucy Connolly tweeted something that everybody watching the show will probably find offensive. She tweeted it, she left it up for 4 hours, she then deleted it voluntarily. I just want to ask you one question. Do you think, yes or no, that she should have been sent to prison for nearly 3 years?
If that tweet did not, end up where people were jumping on that bandwagon, where over 300,000 people viewed, and that actually incited, because it said set fire deliberately, and that was what was done.
Okay,
that was what is done.
Right, fine. So you think
because there is a public order act.
She should have gone to prison? Okay, that's your view. Fine. Here's another.
No, that's the law.
Okay, it's the hate laws, which are Orwellian and are un-British, which should be removed from
That's
this
just your opinion, but it actually works.
So, free speech. What about somebody that says something, I don't know, difficult about the compatibility of Islam within British society, like the school teacher in Batley, who's still in hiding? Do you think he should be in hiding?
No, absolutely not.
Right, so there we are. So you're comfortable with free speech, except in the case of Lucy Connolly, when it's seemingly
I'm actually agreeing with you with that. I'm saying that other person should not be in hiding. He should not have been attacked by, the so-called Muslims that were there.
Okay.
They should have had their views and said it wasn't right. So actually, your point doesn't make any sense.
So
the difference here is, at this point, there were people that actually listened to her and were motivated by her speech.
How can you prove that?
Well, that's what they're trying to prove right now, and that's what is there.
You have no evidence. You have no evidence that Lucy Connolly led anybody to do anything.
We're going to see the court hearing, and she did plead guilty, regardless of what you say about the pressure. People don't just say they're guilty out of pressure, like you said. They also do it because they realise, when I work within, the criminal justice and speak to people who actually do offend, intent and part of law is also about the intent. Whether or not even the intent wasn't there, there was an impact.
Do you believe in a notion of forgiveness?
Absolutely.
The Christian notion of forgiveness?
Absolutely. Maybe she shouldn't have got 3 years, right? Maybe the sentence is too long, but I do think there should be consequences for it.
Right,
maybe a year or so.
So what about the consequences of, let's say, the people who have forced this school teacher into hiding?
Of course, that shouldn't have been.
Right, OK, great.
Yeah.
And what about the consequences of people who, let's say, are advocating a definition of Islamophobia, which includes talking about the rape gangs as evidence of Islamophobia? Should that be allowed?
Well, that hasn't been cleared yet, and that's just your opinion, because that hasn't been said. You're just scared, thinking that it might be, but that's not that.
I'm
and
saying
that
that there's a very
APPG has also... No,
approach
it's not. I see you as being selective, actually. So don't say it's me. It's at the end of the day, that's how it comes across, because let's just be consistent. I am being consistent. I agreed with you with what you're saying. You don't agree with me, because you're just looking at it as someone who just tweeted an innocent mother, but her words actually did cause a fire to an actual building.
You cannot prove that Lucy Connolly's tweet led to any action.
Well, let's see for the courts to do that. Well, so are you. You're also speculating.
No, I'm saying...
It's neither either or.
I'm very clear. I'm saying nobody in this country should be
but
put in
incitement
prison
leads to
based on
violence.
what they share
it just
on
goes to
social
show
media.
that the expression, freedom of expression, has a line. It has to draw a line. It should be a line. It should be, not to say that we can't say anything. Otherwise, there'll be absolutely chaos in a world where everyone can say and do everything that they want, and it leads to that. That's why the Public Order Act is there.
Wow.
Legislation is there, so that we do not act as animals like the Southport people that was, acting like animals.
Fahima, this is a discussion, it's not a rant. Before we had hate laws, the world was in chaos, wasn't it? We couldn't handle it. Everybody was erupting in the streets.
No, before we had hate laws, it was there because of certain things that needed to put it in order and in place, because they couldn't define it, right? So now there is a definition, and even that is still in fair play when it goes to court and there is going to be an investigation. She might come out cleared, right? But she has learned that words do matter, and it does cause serious things. You think the Southport, the riots, was that something that should have happened that actually attacked people like me?
Here's another interesting thing about Southport. Lucy Connolly has been quite open in saying the reason she reacted that way is because the atrocities triggered her memory of losing her child and that she struggled to process what the parents of the Southport girls would have to go through.
I understand that anger.
So can I just finish my point? So there's Lucy Connolly with mitigating circumstances, which were not taken into consideration by the judge. Now we have the Sentencing Council, which wanted to include mitigating circumstances for every minority group, except members of the majority like Lucy Connolly. That's two-tier justice.
Well, we don't know that because they paused it and they might investigate it and they might actually consider it, like you said. And if that's the law, then it's fair.
Well, we shall see. We shall watch with interest what the outcome of that one is. Coming up after the break. Speaking of outcomes, the independent MP now, Rupert Lowe, he's been hinting that he could set up a new political party. Is that what we need?
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome to your holiday sun forecast, and there will be some sunshine for Italy following some unsettled weather this week. Blustery showers, though, pushing into Greece, some heavy downpours and strong winds. That eases away over the next few days, and we're seeing the last of the showers clear southern Italy with plenty of sunny spells returning. Spain and Portugal, perhaps the places to be. Plenty of dry weather, some patchy cloud, otherwise largely sunny skies. A few showers for Italy, but most places looking good into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure remains in charge of the UK's weather this weekend. That means plenty more dry and settled weather. Not entirely clear though. There is a lot of cloud waiting in the North Sea, and with winds circulating around high pressure in a clockwise fashion, we're going to see those winds bring the low cloud in after dark, and that low cloud will spread to much of northern England, the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast parts of northern and eastern Scotland. I think it will break up as it moves west, particularly for northwest England, parts of Wales and the southwest. Clearest skies remain to the west, especially Northern Ireland, western Scotland, and here temperatures dipping to the low single figures, but that's where the sunniest weather will be first thing this weekend. Plenty of sunshine in the west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, but we've got this low cloud and some spots of drizzle running into the east and northeast of Scotland. Perhaps the low cloud reaching as far as Glasgow and Edinburgh, and certainly extensive across southeast Scotland, northeast England, where again some drizzly outbreaks will be occurring during the first part of the day. But as the morning progresses, the cloud will be nibbled away by the sunshine. It will lift and break up. And really by late morning, the cloud becomes more restricted to parts of the Midlands, northern and northeast England. I think it will be slow to clear parts of northern England, but eventually, by the end of the afternoon, it will be more restricted to the east coast, with plenty of sunshine elsewhere. And where we get the longest sunny spells, temperatures will reach the low 20s. However, that North Sea wind will make it feel on the cool side for the east of England and north and east Scotland. Sunday starts off in a similar way. A lot of low cloud across many parts of the UK, but it tends to retreat back to the east coast once again. Sunshine breaking out widely. Chance of a few showers Monday, Tuesday, but away from those showers, plenty of sunshine continues with highs into the low 20s.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs Co with you until 7 o'clock. If you're just joining us, my panel tonight, I've got the pollster, academic, and also GB News presenter. What, 8 o'clock, is it?
8 p.m, State of the Nation.
There you go. Matt Goodwin, alongside him, I've got the political commentator, Fahima Mohammed. Now, lots of strong feelings on this Lucy Connolly thing. Don't worry, we shall be watching this very closely, and you, of course, will be the first to hear about it, whatever that outcome is. On that conversation that we opened the show with about whether or not Labour's plan is working, the short version, ladies and gents, is that there's not a lot of feeling that, yes, it is. I can tell you that among you guys at home. Look, independent MP Rupert Lowe, he used to be very regular on this show. He shall be back soon, worry not. He has been suggesting in recent media appearances that he may form a new political party. Let's just cut straight to the chase on this. Is this what we need in this country, Matt Goodwin?
I think it's very unfortunate what's happened with Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage and the division around that. And I say that as somebody that knows everybody involved. My starting position, putting my personal views out there, is I think this country is in a terrible mess.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs radical change. I think basically it needs to be saved. And I think everybody who wants to achieve that really needs to try and find a way of working together. My personal view is having yet another party on the right would undermine that project. It would make it much harder to turn this country around. I don't personally think that's the right way forward. I think we have an alternative to the establishment that's winning national elections. We have somebody who's the only politician in recent history to win 2 nationwide elections with 2 different parties. Nigel Farage won the 2014-2019 European elections with 2 different parties. He's just become the only leader to win a set of local elections other than Labour and the Conservatives. So, you know, everything is there to play for. And the bigger picture for me, the bigger story is how can we save this country? That's my starting point.
Fahima?
Well, of course, Matt, you know them personally, and I completely understand that. And I think that even from an outside point of view, we can see that this is not about the people. This seems to be like a personal grudge, whether it's against Farage and others. And even though I'm not a fan of reform, and that's not who I would vote for, if they are to be strong, then it should really unite. And this is only just bringing out personal grievances when actually it's splitting the vote and it's splitting people when if a party is to be strong with the same sort of policies and things that they probably do have alike, then they should really sort of sort out their grievances. If they can't sort it out between the peers, how are they going to sort out, bigger problems for the public? So I don't think that this shows any sort of leadership skill, and I don't think it shows any strong sort of like personalities and characteristics if they can fall apart between them, and also not just fall apart, but dig each other out. And, there's like lawsuits, accusations. It just shows how flawed it really is. And it's really coming to light as to whether it's the vetting process or the actual, whether, reform itself is the company that people say instead of a political party, where it actually just has people from like a big boys club and obviously one's fallen out and what's happened.
I think it's important just to mention 2 things. The first is, as far as I'm aware, Reform now has over 230,000 members. It's got 100,000 more than the Conservatives, and I suspect will actually at some point have more than the Labour Party. Mm-hmm. It's got over 400 branches across the country. It's winning, it's number 1 in the national polls.
But you don't talk about those councillors that actually also left within a week of even being voted.
What I'm saying is this is the most significant political insurgency in this country since the rise of the Labour Party in the early 20th century.
It's just a by-election.
So what I'm saying is everything is there to play for people like me who really desperately want to save this country from the carnage and chaos that we see around us and the managed decline. Everything for this alternative is there to play for. And I just think it's very unfortunate that some of the people involved have fallen out at this particular time. And it's become personal. I think it's really unfortunate that that's happened.
Because often what I hear being talked about is a rise of what some people call an online right. What do you think to that?
Well, I think there are people online who spend a lot of their time online and who I haven't really seen campaigning and being active and being out in the streets and knocking on doors, and who tend to maybe think that what happens on X or social media is the country, when in reality the country is actually something else. I'll give you an example. If you take this fallout between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe, it wasn't that long ago, lots of people online were saying to me, well, this is it, the end of reform, and how will they ever recover, and the country is watching. But actually, if you look at the polling since, most people out there really don't have any idea as to what this is all about. Reform have gone on to win the local elections easily. They've got a 30% share of the national vote based on those local elections. They're still heading towards a parliamentary majority. And so what happens online, where you often tend to get people too that maybe advocate views that the average voter would not really rally around at an election, I think, it's that there's quite a bit of difference between these camps. And just lastly, Michelle, we've just had a Labour Prime Minister, and I accept Fahima might have different views on this, but for the first time, really, in my lifetime, we've got a Labour Prime Minister coming out and saying, look, mass immigration is bad for the economy, bad for living standards, and bad for the housing crisis. So the battle of ideas in this country is being won by people who are on reform side of the argument. The battle of ideas is being won by people who are saying, we don't want mass immigration, we want border security.
Well, it does feel like the Overton window somewhat shifted, doesn't it? Final word to you, Fahima, on this.
Well, if you do research and studies academically, there is, this kind of discourse of sort of analytical psychology. So when Brexit came in, there was studies to show that it was only about immigration. That was only there. People that weren't actually even on the side of any side because it's what they heard. So it's kind of a psychological, game that's been played. And that's why when I said at the beginning that that's all you focus on, that's all you talk about. And it actually does sway people if you understand human mind and behavior. This is psychology. This is all playing to it. Again, putting a sort of like, sort of microscope on certain issues to sway people and know that how people will vote in those terms. When if you were to raise other real issues and important issues and keep it balanced, then you will see a different side of people.
Can I ask you just
that is psychology and human behaviour.
One, because you are an expert on neurodiversity.
Neuroscience.
So can I ask you, do you think all of this political change has nothing to do with the actual immigration that's happening in the country? You think it's in people's heads?
No, I think that they have exacerbated a lot of what is actually, wrong.
Not the record levels of immigration in this country.
No, it's not that, because actually, again, I really do feel, just like how when you talk about the grooming gangs, it's a higher percentage, but considering that it's also such a high percentage overall, and all grooming gangs should be put under one banner to say it's all wrong, we just pick on one particular society, one particular group, one particular minority, and that's the rhetoric, that's the propaganda, and that's how we always flow, and that's what kind of gets people. You should understand how this all works. It's all basically psychology. It's all the way playing into the certain people. This is only one channel. There's other channels that don't speak like that, and you get a different response. So at the end of the day, open your lens, open your worldview, listen to social media, not just one channel, and maybe you might learn something different and new.
Well, there you go. Open your minds, open your lens. I can hear you. I can hear you. You're shouting at your screen. Well, it's all right, because after the break, my favourite part of Friday commences. Dewberry Tavern opens. I want to ask you why are civil servants basically suggesting that they might go on strike because they don't like what occurred in the Supreme Court when it comes to men not being allowed in women's toilets. See you in 2.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, everybody, and happy Friday to you. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs Co. Alongside me, I've got Matt Goodwin and Fahima Mohammed. Regular viewers will know that this is my favourite time of the week, quite frankly, because Dewberry Tavern does open. Someone got in touch with me my last Friday before I went on annual leave the other day, and they said that they were sitting, waiting to just do a little cheers with me, and I completely forgot, and I do confess, I thought it was Thursday that day, so I apologise. I'm back on it now.
Can I just say, I really need this drink.
Do you? Well, there you go. Cheers to you guys at home, and cheers to each of my panel. It's always nice just to share a little social drink with you all on a Friday, because we're a nation of people. We're a nation of people that do seem to feel lonelier and lonelier in this day and age, don't we? Whatever your tipple is, whether it's anything or none at all, you're very welcome in my tavern now. Civil servants, we talk about them often, don't we, on this programme? Particularly when it comes to where they're working, if they're working, and whether or not they're on strike. Now, the latest thing is that you've got civil servants now potentially talking about strike action. This is all because you'll all remember the Supreme Court ruling and some subsequent interim guidance, basically, that came out. So the PCS union, I mean, I try hard to take this stuff seriously, and I try hard to be respectful of all views. But long story short, they're looking at putting a potential motion at their next conference. And it's all about, basically, they're saying that they feel that trans people are being unfairly segregated. They don't really feel like this ruling or the guidance is very fair. Matt Goodwin, where are you on this?
It reminds me of when the civil service, or parts of the civil service, threatened to strike over the Rwanda plan, which of course was a plan that was brought forward by a democratically elected government. The problem that we have, as this story reflects again, is that the civil service has become a deeply political, biased organisation that is no longer neutral, and it should be neutral. It's funded by taxpayers. It's there to deliver the programme of government of the day. It should not be taking openly political positions, nor, by the way, should other public sector institutions like the National Health Service, which whenever I walk into the NHS now, I'm sort of bombarded by liberal progressive propaganda, rainbow lanyards and gender ideology all over the place. I think essentially We need to reform the institutions. We need to get them back to what they're supposed to be doing. Neutral, independent, delivering policy from the government of the day.
I've got the exact wording now for this motion that they are looking to put forward. As I said, I try and be respectful of this, but I think it's just such nonsense that I struggle. It's this. Conference rejects biological essentialism and reductionism. Conference believes that LGBT+ and women's liberation are interlinked and that our bodies do not define who we are, who we love, or what we're capable of. Conference believes any Cabinet Office guidance which prevents trans and gender non-conforming workers from fully accessing their workplace should be opposed in coordination with other civil service unions. Fahima, what do you think to that?
You know, even as someone who is of faith, and I do not subscribe to certain things, we have to understand that people do exist, which is not like our own, and it's not the norm, and they do deserve their rights. But at the same time, it shouldn't be at the expense of women. We have been fighting for, I would say, forever, to be where we are and what we need to do. And at the same time, I think that there should be maybe just a separate space, and it should just be separate. It shouldn't be where we are sort of seen as the same as women. And if that's how it is, then what it is. And if you want it to be, I don't know, the fact that you said that it has to be neutral, there's no such thing as being neutral, because people will actually want certain things to come out of, whether it's their beliefs, whether it's their identity, and even if you don't agree with it, as long as it does not infringe on anyone else's.
But it is. It's a civil service. It's civil service guidance. They are rejecting the UK Supreme Court judgment on this issue. The UK Supreme Court ruled that the definition of a woman, shock horror, I'm going to say this, I agree with you.
Yeah.
The definition of a woman
we got there in the end.
is biological.
Yeah, I'm a scientist,
So why are the institutions not listening to the UK Supreme Court?
They'll say it's the EHRC guidance that they took particular issue with. But I do not understand, and I will never understand, why we have ended up in a situation where absolute ridiculousness seems to have been taken on board by people that I can only assume are actually sensible, intelligent people in other walks of life. Because when I hear things like our bodies do not define who we are, who we love, or what we're capable of course they do, to a massive extent. You show me a biological man that can get pregnant, and I will show you a pig flying overhead. It will not happen. It does not happen. Why? Because they are biologically male. You might want to sit there if you're Steve with your wig and your dress on, and you might want to get pregnant. It's never going to happen because bodies and biology are different. And this notion, Fahima, that as women, we have to go to the toilet and encounter random men because they think that they are a female and they don't want to use a gender-neutral space. They want to use our space, the female space. The fact that this has been indulged for such a long time, I think, is appalling. And the fact that so many people are wandering along now, just seeming to disregard the highest court in the land because they dislike the outcome because it doesn't fit with their make-believe, I find it appalling.
Yeah, and it's not just about the human rights. I think it's also to do with the mental health sort of diagnosis, because I think that sort of gave weight to people that are coming out thinking like this, and even people themselves that have had transformed a lot of the times have said it is because of some sort of mental health illness or certain mental issues and challenges that they are feeling. And because that's taken out of the diagnosis right now, the DSM-5, which is there, which actually gives them, you know, more reason to just carry on this way and say the rhetoric that you just mentioned and making it like as if it's okay. So we need to go back and understand their sort of mental state, which is not the norm. And me being from a, you know, sort of like mental health practitioner background, I do struggle with this, and people themselves who have actually transitioned themselves have said a lot of the times that it is due to mental health, and we're not actually diagnosing and seeing it in that way. We are not giving them that, and that's why it's carrying on in that sense. And I think it needs to go back into some sort of psychological framework as well, so that hopefully that they will actually understand that it's not the norm to speak and carry on like that and ask for those kind of privileges.
I would say this to everyone, quite frankly, that doesn't seem able or willing to implement the actual law of the land because their ideological beliefs compromise them and prevent them from doing so. I would say that, quite frankly, you shouldn't be in your job. If you genuinely cannot perform to the standards that the law require of you, you shouldn't be taking a public sector pay packet. You shouldn't be there. It's not difficult, is it? Maybe I'm wrong. It's been known before. Look, that's all we've got time for. Thank you for your company. Thank you to each and every single one of you at home. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. I'll see you Monday night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure remains in charge of the UK's weather this weekend. That means plenty more dry and settled weather. Not entirely clear though. There is a lot of cloud waiting in the North Sea, and with winds circulating around high pressure in a clockwise fashion, we're going to see those winds bring the low cloud in after